It's time to turn the page and look towards week 2. A familiar foe for quarterback one, Max Brosmer. Can he dominate in similar fashion with even better talent? We're diving in today.
You are Locked On Golden Gophers, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Gopher fans? You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And today we're breaking down what we know about the Rhode Island Rams. We're going to dive into the transfers that are coming in, what we saw from their first game, and then we're going to move into Max Brosmer, who has played this team not once, not twice, but 3 times, and how he has fared against this Rhode Island team that has had the same coach throughout each one of those matchups. Then finally, we're going to talk about the Gophers basketball team, men's basketball team, bringing in their first commit of 2025, what to know about him and what he brings to the team. All of that today on Locked On Golden Gophers. So if you want to be sure to catch your daily Gophers content, be sure to hit subscribe over on YouTube. Be sure to drop comments down below. I love to look at them. I love to chat back. I love to get the conversations going. I love when y'all get chatting too, because Gophers fans are the greatest. I love interacting with you all. Let's continue to build the fan base, build the morale around this team, even in the times of struggle. But hopefully these next couple weeks, and maybe even week 4, when we get to take on our rival, the Iowa Hawkeyes, we will get to have that momentum built up to that game and hopefully make it 3 wins in a row. But it's going to take some major improvements in week 2 and week 3 until I can feel more confident in that matchup. But regardless, we're going to break it down, rain or shine, good or bad. We've got you covered here at Locked On Golden Gophers. So let's do it. Let's dive in. Now we're going to talk about the Rhode Island Rams. We did a breakdown show for them in August, breaking down every single one of our opponents heading into the season. So you can always go back and check that show out, where we talked about every position group on the team. We talked about the coaching experience. We talked about the transfers coming in, and then the keys for what the Gophers are going to have to do in order to not only set themselves up for this game, but also down the long-term line and what they need to look at in this matchup in order to be successful on the season. Now, today we're going to talk about what we do know with the Rhode Island Rams the last 3 years. Since COVID, this team has been on its best winning streak or winning season streak in quite some time. They went 6-5, 7-4, and 7-4 in the last 3 years. Now it feels like they're starting to figure things out as of late. They're starting to figure out what it takes to get wins, especially at that FCS level. But overall, their coach has been getting it done. He started out with some losing records, some very bad losing records, but as of late, he has gotten them on track. Their recruiting has been getting better, and now they're pulling names from the transfer portal that are coming from bigger schools. You've got Greg Gaines coming from Iowa State, a wide receiver. He is a starter for them in Rhode Island. You've got Hunter Helms, a quarterback coming from Clemson. Now, he is the quarterback too, surprisingly, but that just shows you that they have depth in that quarterback room in case anything were to happen. They have Jordan Cooper, who was a solid offensive lineman for Northwestern State. And then they have 3 Sacred Heart players that were all NEC conference players. In Malik Grant, the running back from Sacred Heart, Carson Primrose, the defensive line from Sacred Heart, and Arsheen Giles, a cornerback from Sacred Heart. All 3 of those guys, like I said, all conference players that are coming over to Rhode Island. But when you're looking at this team, what we saw in week 1 was that quarterback 1 is actually Devin Farrell, who went 20 of 33 with 287 yards and 1 touchdown in week 1 against Holy Cross. Now, Holy Cross lost their big quarterback from last year. They're definitely having some rebuilding to do from last season's successes. But overall, this Rhode Island team held its own. They got their first dub on the season. The quarterback looked pretty capable. And on top of being able to throw the ball, he also was mobile. He led the team in rush yards with 66 rushing yards, but it also shows that their running back room didn't show very well or show very much talent, even with their former all NEC running back in Malik Grant. Now, when you think about that, their quarterback led the way with 66 rush yards. They won that game, I believe, 24-10. So it was a multiple score game, and you would think later in the later stages of that game, you're going to want to use the 4-minute or use your 4-minute drill essentially and run clock and get things going and keep the drives long. So that way, hopefully you can run the clock out and keep the ball out of your opponent's hands trying to come back in a game of that situation. But they didn't find much success on the running game. They didn't find much success on the ground, and that was against an FCS opponent, not against a Big Ten defense that looked pretty strong. Now, they didn't look the strongest against the running game, so we'll see if the Gophers can prove that the running game struggles was more Omarion Hampton, an all-American type running back, as opposed to the Gophers defense as a whole. But I imagine the Gophers are going to shut down this running game and then some, which could cause problems for Rhode Island because it could lead for them to be more one-dimensional. Now, when you're looking at Rhode Island's offense, you have two wide receivers that led the charge in week one. The former Iowa State wide receiver, Greg Gaines, who I had just mentioned, he had 70 receiving yards on 4 or 5 catches. And then Marquise Buchanan had 80-some receiving yards on like 4 or 5 catches. So those two led the way by a lot. Now, those two plus the wide receiver 3 each had 4 or 5 receptions in this game. But overall, they kind of spread the ball around. 21 receptions total for this Rhode Island team, and that was spread among 7 different players, and 14 of the receptions came to the top 3 wide receivers in that room. So overall, it's hard to get a real read on the defense for the Rhode Island Rams because, again, the level of talent and the level of play across the board between Big Ten and FCS school is drastically different, especially when it comes to consistency across the board. So I honestly don't think that their defense is going to be able to hold up for 4 quarters against Minnesota. Now, could they keep it close in quarter one, maybe even in the first half? Maybe if the Gophers offense is struggling and being lackluster once again, then they can keep this thing closer. But I think as it continues to go, the Gophers are going to find a way to wear that team down defensively, and then it could get ugly after that. So with the way Minnesota's defense played outside of the missed tackles last week, I think Rhode Island could really struggle here. I think especially because the Gophers had the number 18 pass defense after week one. And again, that was against a power conference opponent, whereas a lot of power conference opponents were playing G5s, FCSs, and whatnot, that I think this Gophers defense could show even stronger in the pass defense against this Rhode Island team. It could be a tough day, a long day for the Rhode Island Rams. But this is their Super Bowl matchup. This is the game that they have circled on the schedule, ready to try and shock the world and show that they can be a high quality team. And hopefully the Gophers do not let that happen, because Rhode Island has struggled in their Power 5 FBS games that they have had in the tenure of their head coach. So if the Gophers end up dropping this game, it could be absolutely abysmal for this entire team. It could be detrimental for this coaching staff, and that would put a lot on the line. I don't think that's going to happen. This Rhode Island team offensively feels very one-dimensional, like I said, with them favoring the pass game and their quarterback, especially their quarterback being a leading rusher for them in week one when they were leading in a lot of the game. So if Minnesota can take away the pass game and put this quarterback in pressure and put him in the pressure cooker and add chaos and add physical hits and whatnot, I think that this Rhode Island team could be feeling the pains of an FBS school rather quickly and have a very, very long day. Now, the last FCS team that Minnesota played was in 2022 versus Western Illinois, where Minnesota won 62-10. That Western Illinois team had a really good receiver in Nazim Brantley. They also had a mobile quarterback, and I expect this Gophers team to similarly dominate this game. But this game is a familiar foe for Gophers quarterback one. Coming up next, I'm going to tell you about how Max Brosmer has played against this Rhode Island team over the course of his matchups, and not 1, not 2, but 3 different times against the Rhode Island Rams. And it's definitely pleasing information, so you're going to want to stick around for that. That's what's coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at eBay Motors, because if you are trying to soup up your vehicle, you're trying to keep it tip-top shape and pristine, then you're definitely going to want to check out eBay Motors because they have the formula for winning championships and keeping your ride or die alive, and that is passion, drive, and patience. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. They have superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. So if you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors is going to have you covered. And before we know it, the winter's going to be here, folks. I don't want to say that. I don't want to put that out there. The summer just ended. You're like, Kane, we just got football. Why are we talking about snow? But you can always get ready with eBay Motors to help in that transition. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. And with over 122 million parts to choose from for your ride or die, it makes eBay Motors the easy choice, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. And with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home the dub. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, and the eBay Guaranteed Fit is for U.S. customers only. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about how Max Brosmer has fared against this Rhode Island team that he has played 3 times. But before I do that, I do want to mention that you should follow Locked On Minnesota Sports, where we will be doing a live post-game reaction after every single game. They did it last week without me because your boy forgot his headphones while he was in the in the press box. And so I was like, I'm not going to be able to hear my computer. I won't hear what Ron Johnson and Luke Inman are saying. I literally will be useless in this scenario. So your boy had to tab out and leave it to them, but I will be back with them on Saturday after the Rhode Island matchup with some headphones in tow, ready to break down what we saw in the matchup, live post-game reactions. So be sure to follow Locked On Minnesota Sports so you do not miss that going forward, and hopefully we will see you in the comments tapping in there. But like I said, we're going to talk about how Max Brosmer has fared in his last 3 matchups against Rhode Island. Now in 2023, which was last season, where Max Brosmer ended up being a Walter Payton Award finalist, he balled out against Rhode Island with New Hampshire. Now, overall, New Hampshire lost this game in overtime 34-28, which was unfortunate, but Max Brosmer did everything for that team. He had 41 completions on 60 attempts for 68% completion percentage with 493 pass yards and 2 touchdowns, along with 0 interceptions. So he took care of the ball. He had 2 passing scores. He almost had 500 yards passing, and he led his team in rushing with 31 rush yards and a touchdown on 6 attempts. So literally, Max Brosmer was the everything for New Hampshire against Rhode Island. He put the team on his back, and he almost took them the whole way, ending up losing in overtime. But if you go to the year prior, another close matchup, New Hampshire won the game 31-28, and Max Brosmer balled out once again, 31-43, 72% completion rate with 316 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Now, he did have -1 rush yard on 11 attempts, so couldn't get it done on the ground, probably had some sack yardage in there, but overall, very successful as a passer, 72% completion with 300-plus yards. You're going to take that all day, any day. And then finally, 2019, his freshman season in his first year as a starter with New Hampshire, he won the game 27-24, another close one, a nail biter. So all 3 of these games coming down to the wire, but Max Brosmer as a freshman went 12 of 23 for 52% completion, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception, along with 11 rush yards. So over the course of 3 games versus this Rhode Island Rams team that has had the same head coach in every single one of those games from 2019 through 2023, he's been there for 11 years. He's been there for over a decade, but Max Brosmer has given this team headaches, and he can do it once again with the Gophers. But if you look at what Max Brosmer did with lesser star talent around him across the board, with a lesser offensive line that didn't hold up as well, with I can't even say a lesser running back because Dylan Lobby got drafted to the NFL, to the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm not going to say lesser running back, but DT is a dog if he's playing on this one. So overall, a really good running back. And then receivers that just weren't comparable to someone like Daniel Jackson. Gophers have a lot more talent than that New Hampshire team, and we've seen Max Brosmer ball out. If you look at his combined stats across those 3 games, you're talking about a guy who had 993 pass yards, 1,034 total yards, and 7 total touchdowns to 1 interception over the course of 3 games. So 1,000 all-purpose yards and 7 touchdowns with 1 turnover. Yeah, he has destroyed this Rams team, and he is going to be playing with Daniel Jackson, with Ariante Ursery, with Tyler Cooper, with hopefully Darius Taylor. Otherwise, Marcus Major has held his own already in week 1. This should be a game that the Gophers dominate. And you're surrounding him with Big Ten talent. There is zero excuses for this Gophers team to not execute and dominate. And there is zero excuses for this Gophers coaching staff to not get the pass game going. You've seen this quarterback thrive against this team. And if you can't find a way to get it done now, I'm going to stop looking at the personnel and, oh, they don't have a quarterback. Oh, they don't have this. Oh, they don't have that. And I'm turning all of my eyes on you, Coach Harbaugh, Coach Fleck. So it's time to get it done. It's time to put the pass game together because Max Brosmer has shown he can pick this team apart 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So overall, especially when 2 of the last 3 outings has been a Rhode Island Rams team that has been on their positive upswing, on their winning streaks, on their 3 above 500 win seasons, and he had his best outings, a 493-yard game, a 316-yard game, 5 total touchdowns in those 2 games. Yeah, you have to absolutely get the pass game going, dominate this game, and have zero excuses. This needs to be a get-right game for the Minnesota Gophers, but also a game to help get this offense in the passing game to start clicking. There is no play it safe in this matchup. If you're just going to run the ball all game long, it is going to come back to bite you in the butt. So get the pass going everywhere, all over, to multiple guys, and get the chemistry and the confidence going in this offense. If Minnesota doesn't do that, I promise you, pinky swear, whatever your thing is, I promise you the Gophers will regret it in the long run if they don't get the passing game going in this week 2 matchup that should be a dominant one. So the final thing I want to talk about, we're going to turn our eyes away from football. We have talked football all through August and then to the beginning of this September month. But we have to look at men's basketball because they got their first 2025 commit. And we're going to talk about who that is, what other schools were interested in him, and why he decided to commit. All of that coming up next. First, let's talk about our friends over at FanDuel because you have heard us talk about FanDuel. They're America's #1 sportsbook, and that is for a reason, but they also have something different going for you right now through September 22nd. So that is less than 20 days. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And now's the time to do it. The NFL season kicks off this weekend. So if you bet $5, you will get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV from our friends at FanDuel. And then with the YouTube TV base plan, you will be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. So just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel.com, and get America's #1 sportsbook and try out that 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket. All right, Gophers fans, we're going to wrap this one up with some quick talk about the Gophers gaining their first commit for the men's basketball side of things, and I am really excited by it. I mean, it's good that the Gophers are finally getting some 2025 blood onto this team because if you look at what this team is bringing back, and that's hoping that no one leaves for the transfer portal, they have multiple seniors. I believe like 7 or 8 seniors on this Gophers roster, and they will only have Asuma, Grove, Frankie, those 3 guys are kind of the main. Caden Betts. Those 4 guys are kind of the main guys coming back that have multiple years of eligibility. So the Gophers have a lot of turnover heading into the end of this season. So they need some guys in this 2025 class to build it up and keep some sustainability, some foundation to this Gophers team moving forward. So it's not just seniors turning and burning every single year. And the Gophers finally get their first commit of that 2025 class that they're pushing hard after. And Minnesota lands their first 25 commit, which is a Philadelphia guard in Kai Shinholster. Now, Kai Shinholster is a 3-star player from William Penn Charter School. He officially visited last week during that North Carolina game and through the weekend. He was here along with another official visit of Amari Allen, who the Gophers have been very high and very much highly prioritized and targeting in the recent months. Now, with Kai Shinholster, the Gophers got into this really late in the game. They joined the pack in late July, and now he has made his way to committing almost just a little bit over a month later. So overall, the Gophers showed love in that quick amount of time, and he is a guy who is on the verge of a 4-star. His ranking on 247 for 247 is an 88. Now, typically, if you get to the high 89s or into the 90s, you become a 4-star player. Now, he's a combo guard. He's rated the 25th combo guard in the country, and he is 6'5", 170 pounds, but he's also ranked 220th nationally, and that could increase as we go into senior year for him. And that's something you've noticed with a lot of the guys Ben Johnson has been finding in the recruiting rankings and what have you, is he finds a lot of guys that are lower in the rankings and ball out in their senior years and find themselves seeing huge jumps over the course of their senior year in the recruiting rankings. And this could be another one that fits that mold. Now, he had offers from Mississippi State, Florida Gulf Coast, St. Louis, which St. Louis has the head coach from Indiana State last year who knocked out the Gophers in the NIT, along with Robbie Avila transferring to St. Louis. So that is a quality school that has proven coach and proven players on the roster. And then finally, also Rhode Island, who we just talked about their football program. Those are some of the main offers that he had heading into his recruiting, and his highlights show that he can hit the 3-ball, which you love to see as a Gopher fan, with some regularity, but also he has a nice slashing guard skill set, so that could pair really nice with Isaac Asuma, who could be an impact true freshman point guard this upcoming season. So overall, I'm really liking the promise of Kai Shinholster. I'm hopeful that Kai Shinholster and the other 2 potential Gopher commits who visited this last weekend hopefully can all head this way. Amari Allen was the other guy on an official visit. We've talked about him on the show a few times. And then also Tommy Oneman, who was not on an official visit. He will be on an official visit in October, but he did unofficially visit along with those 2 other players on their official visit. So hopefully those 3 could all land with the Gophers, and that would be quite a recruiting class for Ben Johnson here in the late stages of the 2025 class. Now, one thing I did want to mention is from Ryan James over at Gopher Illustrated. If you don't follow them, if you don't subscribe to them, you are missing out. But he had talked with Kai Shinholster, and he had asked what intrigued Kai, what positive aspects did he like about the Minnesota Gophers. And one thing that I thought was pretty telling, but also says a lot about maybe Ben and their recruiting pitches, is that this team has 7 seniors. So he said, this team has 7 seniors, and when I get there next season, they'll be starting over a little bit. They'll only have 1 returning guard, so it kind of opens up the opportunities to work, get that spot, and play at the highest level. Now, it doesn't say, oh, it opens up the opportunities for me to start right away, but it says I can grind, I can work, I can put in the effort, and I can earn the spot and play at the highest level in the Big Ten Conference. So he is ready to get to work. He's ready to push himself. He is ready to put his name into the conversation early, and he likes the intrigue of having multiple guys leaving so he can try and compete as a true freshman. So that is something that Ben could be pitching to some of these guys, especially Amari Allen, who we've already talked about on the show, who took notice of how the Gophers used Cam Christie and how Cam Christie got drafted to the NBA, and he could see himself in a similar role as a Cam Christie, Amari Allen, that is. And so that shows 2 players now that have seen they could maybe get some early playing time on the floor, find some success, and find the trajectory that we just saw Cam Christie take from the Minnesota Golden Gophers. So like I said, those other priority targets are Amari Allen and Tommy Oneman, along with the current and only commit of the 2025 class right now in Kai Shinholster. We'll keep you posted as we hear more about these Gophers recruiting class and recruits as they finish their visits here and elsewhere. And hopefully the Gophers have a couple more headed to the Barn and Williams Arena here in Dinkytown, ready to play each and every home game. But that's going to do it for us here at Locked On Golden Gophers. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk about the keys and a make or break against this Rhode Island team. And then finally on Friday, we will have predictions with your boy Tristyn Spann-Ford. So until then, I will see you next time. Roll the boat, Sky Mago Gophers, as always, and please don't forget to hit subscribe.